Good morning, Stockholm. This is Economy for You. The radio show where we focus on economy aspects important for the everyday person. We will also explain the social issues that one can read about in the paper. Well, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned while enjoying your morning coffee. I know I will. Today we have invited a troubled girl who makes some bad economic decision. Welcome, Lucky Lou. Hello, Lucky. Lovely to have you here.
Hi, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
I'm 28 years old and work as a nurse. I have a lovely husband and a small son named Hugo. We just moved to a new apartment with a room for Hugo in the Stockholm suburbs.
What about your economic situation?
I work in a small private practice and my current monthly income is 18,000. We have to make a great loan for the apartment and my husband just became unemployed. We used a credit card to buy necessaries. And just a few weeks back, my fridge broke. And now I have to buy a new one, while I'm still struggling to pay off my loans. Plus, recently we just bought a second-hand TV from a guy on the street.
Thank you for your story. Today, for you and all the struggling people out there, we have invited Professor Bra, who just published his book on how to handle and organize your economy better. The book is called Money and I, and you can buy it now in the stores and also order from our homepage. So welcome, Professor Bra.
Hello, and thanks for having me here.
Hi, Mr. Bra. Do you think you have any tips for Lucky?
From what I've been listening about today, Lucky have come to the conclusion that you have a bad luck. But I can give you some relief. You don't have to buy a new refrigerator because of the bad quality the seller has to give you a new one or repair the old machine.
And when you say it, Bra, the consumers actually have a lot of rights without knowing it.
Yes, very few know the rights, and therefore I have created a document especially for everyday people to clear things up.
Yes, and you can view the rights on our homepage. But Mr. Bra, don't we have consumers also have a lot of obligations as well?
Yes, that is true. And I think that you have to think twice before buying second-hand again, Lucky. It sounds as the TV could have been stolen, and in that case you have to return it without getting your money back. We consumers have the obligation to use common sense when buying goods.
Very much so, and you also created a document to cover this area, which also can be seen on our webpage. But do you have any tips for Lucky in general? How can she get the household economy going?
Yes, I have drawn up a suggestion with the basic household economy. Two major things are the economy and the spending. Income is the money that comes to the household. Spending is the one leaving it. But there's a different sort of this. The income can be active or inactive, just as the spending can be active and inactive. An active income is something that is not guaranteed every month, salary for instance. The same as with active spending. It doesn't have to be spending every day, every month, clothes, etc. are good examples. It is with the inactive income and spending things get interesting. An inactive income is something the household receives every month without doing anything. Stocks, rent on loans given to neighbors, etc. Inactive spending is the same. It could be the car tax, the house loan, etc. The trick is to have as much inactive income and as little inactive spending as possible. In that way, the spending will be done on fun stuff, travels, etc. But the household does not have to work as much for it.
We thank Professor Bra, and I hope that you were helped by the information, Lucky.
I sure have. Thank you for everything.
We say now bye to Lucky, but Professor Bra, what would happen to society if a lot of people would do as Lucky?
Everyone should know that if you want to buy some kind of product, you would need an income. Though sometimes people spend money they do not have in form of, example, a credit card. On the credit card, you have an amount of money you can spend, but have to pay back later with interest. Most often people do not think about the paying back part, and it is when people's debts get their beginning. The current US financial crisis is partly from the people's debts. People take loans to buy houses and products that they cannot pay back. When people are in debt, they start to take more and more loans to pay back the old ones, and the debt only grows bigger and bigger. The US national debt is about 16 trillion and about 2/3 in the public debt. About 70% of US GDP is from consumer spending. When people realize that they really cannot buy anything else or are almost homeless, people are probably going to stop buying products. Even a small change to that, 70%, can make a huge difference in US economy. The growth of the economy would slow down.
Thank you for this interesting information, Professor Bra.
Thanks for having me here today. And Lucky, may the best of luck be with you.
We will now move to our next subject. Dagens Nyheter published a study where it was clarified that there were more people called Göran than there are females in the boards of Swedish companies on the stock market. This clearly shows the gender inequality in high positions within the economy. We have invited Chuck Bass, professor in economics from Lund University, who has a strong opinion in the matter. Welcome, Professor Bass. What do you think? Why do you think there are so few women in these high positions?
Well, women have always been suppressed. They didn't have the right to vote until 1921. The education has also been divided. Girls could not apply to upper secondary school, but had to go by a private institution. This went on until 1927, when the education became equal. But on the other hand, Sweden was ranked 4th in the Gender Gap Index, and compared to other countries, gender inequalities are much less in Sweden. And as things are changing, so is the system. Today in Sweden, there are more girls in the university-level educational system compared to boys, and 60% of the undergraduates are girls who receive 2/3 of the diplomas. So even if women are more suppressed around the world, Sweden might be one of the best.
But this is still a problem. Do you have a solution to the problem?
A generally affirmative action would, according to me, solve the problem. In that way, 50% of the people elected into boards have to be female. This has worked very well in Norway. Some people, however, call this a discrimination for the male population, who is treated differently because of their sex. I personally believe that females have been discriminated all the time, and that this is the only way to get a real effect.
Thank you very much for the answer and your time in this studio. Have a nice day, and people, don't forget to pick up his book.
Thank you.
The constant debate regarding the economic condition of the world and what is the ideal economic society has been argued for a long time. Here today with us is an expert on this. Hello, Mr. Smith.
Different countries apply different types of economic systems and theories. Nevertheless, most countries use mixed economy system, often based on the Keynesian theory of economics. This way, the government has partly controlling the market, and therefore public services like education and welfare are possible and valued. On the other side, the free market policy gives the advantage of there being more variety of goods without the market becoming a mess. A mixed market economy has been the standard model of economics in most developed countries since the Great Depression and the Second World War. This type of system relies highly on the government because in case of economic crisis, they could reduce interest rates and invest in government infrastructure. Keynesian economics is all about spending. That way there's money constantly in the system and people are able to invest. And if the aggregate demand is bigger, then more jobs will be created in order for the system to fulfill the aggregate supply. So there will be no surpluses and shortages, and a country would have a stable GDP. However, even Keynes at his time saw the pessimism and fear people had for the future, which led them to, instead of investing money, they would hold on to it. That could often result into deflation, decrease in aggregate demand, and a less stable GDP.
Interesting, but aren't many people worried that if everyone spends their money without a worry, it could result into inflation?
Hayek was totally against this whole spending theory. He favored free market economy, where the government had no involvement at all. And Singapore today is a very good example of that. Even though they have a mixed economy, or said to do so, the free market consists of 88% and the overall tax percentage is 14.1% of the total domestic income. Singapore has low interest rates with a minimal capital required to start a business, which is more pro-Keynes. Hayek's concern with low monetary rates is that what's happening in the real estate market in the state of California, where accessible cheap capital results into banks offering financing that entice borrowers to buy estates they cannot afford, which in the long run results into causing demand to plummet, leading to oversupply and a crash in the real estate market prices. Today, Singapore has one of the world's most free markets with a high and flourishing GDP growth of 3%. Many are concerned with the inflation part, since with all the business and entrepreneur encouragement, they're inspired to invest and consume. However, the government makes sure to regulate prices through state-linked enterprises. Today, Singapore has an inflation of 5.2%, which is slightly higher than the recommended one of 2% by the European Central Bank.
But then how about Sweden and her economic problems?
Sweden is actually one of the richest countries in the world with a high GDP per capita. However, the current Eurozone has shaken up the country and its unemployment rate. Sweden has a current inflation of 1.4%, which is lower than the recommended 2%. Sweden should perhaps strive for a more free market economy, just like Singapore, that will create a bigger opportunity for employment and people will start spending more money again, stabilizing the money flow cycle. However, having low interest rates might be risky for a country as big as Sweden and lead to the economy crashing. That does not mean that interest rates in banks should be super high either, as Hayek would probably want. As Keynes said, we need to concentrate on the short run because in the long run, we are all dead. While Hayek had a different opinion of the matter. To sum this up, I just want to add up that there's no perfect economical system. A good and a stable economy, as we can see, is a mix of both Hayek and Keynes theories.